This one detail from Brad Garlinghouse's speech just changed how I see XRP forever. Hey guys, welcome back to Whiteboard Crypto Update. In today's video, we will talk about XRP. So be sure to stay focused, as you surely don't want to miss out on this. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on post notifications by hitting the bell so you never miss any of our uploads. This video is for educational purposes only. It is not financial advice. Always do your own research before making any investment decisions. Right after stepping off the stage at the XRP conference, Brad Garlinghouse delivered a message that, at first glance, sounded familiar. But if you really pay attention, there were deeper insights that most people might completely miss. And that's exactly what we're going to break down today in a way that actually makes sense, even if you're not seeing any visuals on screen. Because this isn't just about what was said, it's about what it actually means for the future of XRP and the entire financial system. So stay with me, because this gets more interesting the further we go. Now, one of the biggest points Brad reinforced, and he's been consistent about this, is that XRP sits at the very center of everything Ripple is building. And this isn't just a branding statement or hype line. This is a structural reality of how Ripple operates, because no one benefits more from XRP succeeding than Ripple itself. They are the largest holders of XRP, which makes it their most critical asset. And understanding this alone clears up a lot of confusion that people in the community often have, especially those who constantly debate whether a certain Ripple product directly uses XRP or not, because the truth is, we are still very early in this entire space. And focusing too much on whether one specific feature uses XRP today is like missing the entire strategy that's unfolding in front of us. What Ripple is actually doing is far more sophisticated. They are not forcing XRP into every product immediately. Instead, they are building gateways, connections, and infrastructure that lead directly into the XRP ledger. And this includes things like custody solutions, institutional-grade liquidity tools, tokenization platforms, and treasury systems. And these are not random services. These are foundational layers that connect major financial institutions into the XRP ecosystem, meaning instead of trying to convince banks overnight to use XRP, Ripple is embedding itself into the back-end systems that banks already rely on. And once those systems are connected, XRP naturally becomes the liquidity engine powering them. And this is why Brad keeps calling XRP the heartbeat of Ripple. It's not always visible on the surface, but it's essential underneath everything now. Another point he addressed was criticism around Ripple acquiring companies instead of building the ecosystem. And honestly, this is where a lot of people completely misunderstand the strategy, because acquisitions are actually one of the most powerful ways to build a real ecosystem, especially at the institutional level. This isn't about launching another trending NFT collection or chasing meme coin hype. This is about controlling key parts of financial infrastructure. Imagine owning a prime brokerage where XRP is used as collateral, or integrating XRP into trading settlement systems, or expanding custody services that allow real-world assets to be tokenized and traded on-chain. These are massive, long-term developments that reshape how money moves globally. And these things don't happen instantly. They require real businesses, real partnerships, and deep integration. You can't just walk into a major institution and say, start using XRP today. That's not how global finance works. So Ripple's approach is strategic. They are building the rails first, and once those rails are in place, XRP becomes the natural asset flowing through them. Now here's where things got really interesting, because Brad was asked a question that a lot of people have been thinking but rarely get a clear answer to. Why does Ripple buy back its own shares? But not XRP, and instead of directly answering the XRP part in detail, he immediately shifted the conversation towards something very telling: the idea of a future IPO. And this is important because when a company plans to go public, controlling its share structure becomes absolutely critical. Right now, Ripple is a private company. which means leadership has strong control over decisions. But once a company goes public, that control can shift depending on who owns the shares. And if too many shares are held externally, it can even open the door to hostile takeovers or unwanted influence over the company's direction. So when Ripple buys back its own shares, it's not just about boosting value, it's about maintaining control, especially ahead of a potential IPO. And Brad made it clear, they're not rushing into going public, which is actually a very positive sign, because companies that rush into IPOs usually need capital urgently, whereas Ripple appears to be in a strong position financially. Instead, going public in the crypto space often serves another purpose: transparency. Public companies are required to disclose audited financials, which builds trust with large institutions. And that trust is critical when you're dealing with global finance. So eventually, an IPO could strengthen Ripple's credibility even further. But now let's go back to the XRP side of the question, because this is where a lot of people get confused. Why doesn't Ripple just buy XRP from the market if they believe in it so much? And to understand this, you have to go all the way back to how XRP was created. When the XRP ledger was first designed, the creators had to make a fundamental choice: prioritize decentralization of distribution, like Bitcoin, or prioritize efficiency, speed, and usability. And they chose usability, which meant XRP was pre-created instead of mined, and Ripple took on the role of distributing that supply strategically. And yes, that created a more centralized starting point in terms of who held the tokens, but that was a deliberate trade-off to build a system that could actually function at scale in real-world finance. And here's the key insight. Ripple's mission has always included distributing XRP over time and not hoarding it. They are meant to place XRP into the hands of institutions and participants who will actually use it. So if Ripple started buying XRP back from the open market right now, it would go against that entire strategy. Their goal is to decentralize the supply gradually, not concentrate it further. And over time, as more XRP moves into circulation and into the hands of meaningful players, the ecosystem becomes stronger and more decentralized. And maybe in the future, when Ripple's holdings are significantly reduced, their approach could change. But right now, buying XRP simply doesn't align with where they are in this process. It's also important to understand a distinction that many people get wrong. Ripple as a company is centralized, but the XRP ledger itself is decentralized. The network operates independently with its own consensus mechanism, and what's evolving is the distribution of the token supply, not the decentralization of the network itself. And this actually puts XRP on a very different path compared to assets like Bitcoin and Ethereum, which started with highly decentralized distribution methods like mining and later staking, but can develop different forms of centralization over time. XRP took the opposite route, starting with centralized distribution for efficiency and moving toward decentralization over the long term. And right now, Ripple is in that transition phase where they are focused on distributing XRP, strengthening institutional connections, and maintaining control of their company structure as they prepare for future opportunities like an IPO. And when you step back and look at the entire strategy, it becomes clear that everything Ripple is doing is leading toward one goal: positioning XRP as a core liquidity asset in the global financial system, not just another cryptocurrency, but a foundational layer of how value moves across the world. And if that vision plays out, Ripple could become one of the most important financial technology companies out there. And at the center of that entire system, quietly powering it all, is XRP. Well, guys, that's all we have for you today. What are your thoughts on XRP? Get involved and let us know in the comments down below. If you guys like this video, then be sure to give this video a big thumbs up. Thank you for watching, and we will see you again in the next video. Goodbye.